MHA Podcast. MHA Podcast.
MHA Podcast.
Hey, I am hosting this show, Quinn.
I'm sorry.
You are taking the words right out of my mouth. Todd's drooling at the mouth. Let me get you a tissue right here.
I'm worried that he's Nick Foles.
I see the word regression plastered all over his stats.
Well, and I cheated a little bit here.
You bastard, how could you? This is a cheat-free zone, a Tom Brady-free zone, and you're funking it up.
If I want to win a fantasy championship, I don't want my quarterback doing that crap.
I have Theo Riddick in front of.
Okay.
What the
Wow. Eddie Lacy's going to be great. How could you, in your right mind, in your sane mind, Eddie Lacy's going to be great?
I don't like doing it, but I'll agree with Todd. I totally disagree with Todd.
Especially with Quain. I hate drafting next to Quain. I'm just gonna have that bottle of tequila right next to me. See, people should be listening to the show just to strategize around us. Happy July 16th from the MHA Podcast. We are only 51 days away from the start of the 2018 NFL season, so it's time to ramp up the fantasy football talk. So we're going to help you with two positions on the podcast. Maybe it's a position and a half, depending on how you see the tight end position. But we'll talk about those pass catchers, the wide receivers, and those tight ends will be the focus of today's show. We'll tell you which receivers in the top 10 that you need to have on high alert. A lot of questions with the top 10 guys, and we'll talk all about them. We'll give you some of our sleepers and bust candidates. Always fun to talk about in fantasy world. And also, we'll talk about Jimmy Graham, which, speaking of tight ends, a lot of upside and maybe a lot of downside as well. He's arguably the most talked about polarizing tight end in all of fantasy sports. You know the crew. It's the same crew. Eric Lansing here along with Mikey Renaud, Todd Diamond. What's up, fellas?
Yo.
What's on your mind? What are you thinking about right now?
Thinking about a sandwich, maybe pastrami.
You just had Cosmos Pizza.
Yeah.
Food should not be on your mind right now.
Um,
How about Manny Machado leaving?
yeah,
That's pretty sad, right?
yeah.
Or is it just me?
No, it sucks because he's going to the Dodgers.
Yes.
I mean,
For
would have
those
been
Rockies
worse.
fans. A lot of Rockies fans in our league, so
That'd have been worse.
good luck with that, guys.
If he would have gone to the Yankees, would he have been more pissed off?
It would have been tough to watch for sure.
You'd
But,
been like-
you know,
Would have called up
it
direct
was
TV.
going to happen.
Would have called up direct. But like, I want to cancel my service, please. Cancel.
Yeah, I'm going to turn into a Rockies fan really quick. Go
There
get
you
my Trevor Story jersey.
There you
There you
go.
Is it too late? Is the bandwagon wide open for new Rockies fans, participants?
I don't think so. I think there was a lot of bandwagon fans when they went to the World Series, back 2007. So why not?
So, lots to talk about. A lot of wide receivers, a couple of tight ends. So we'll get to as much as we can. But as always, at this point of the show, we got to tell you about our news and notes.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Extra, extra, read all about it.
And there isn't a lot of news at this point of the season, but there are a couple of big ones. And one is LaShawn McCoy. Now, we all know what's going on with him. We're not here to talk about what's happening to him off the field. That's not what we're about. I don't want to talk about it. I don't know that much about it. It sounds like a pretty tough situation for everyone involved. When we get closer to the draft, we'll talk about where to draft him. We're not going to do that today. But for those who don't know, LaShawn McCoy is dealing with some stuff off the field. Could be suspended. We don't know. We're going to leave it at that. So just keep an eye on LaShawn McCoy as we get closer to the draft. Another running back that we can talk about is Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell, his agent, and the Steelers still have not come up with a finalized deal. And the day passed yesterday, Monday, was the day that passed to get a deal done, right? And so now he's saying it's his last year in Pittsburgh. Do you believe him?
I think that's probably more of a ploy. I'm sure.
Shock value?
Yeah. Pittsburgh won't be able to really franchise him again because if they do, then the price goes up. They're not going to pay quarterback money for him. But I think they'll try and get a deal worked out after next season, especially if he has his best season of his career like he says he's going to. So I wouldn't close that chapter just yet.
He's out the door.
Doesn't he have to be at this point?
Isn't
this the Kirk Cousins thing all over again?
When you're starting to say stuff and your agents and your inner circle, whatever the case may be, starting to say all this stuff like, oh, I'm done. That's it. If you're not going to pay me, I'm going to go somewhere else. Because let's face it, Le'Veon Bell is the best running back in the league, whether it's reality or whatever the case may be. He's a dual threat. running back catches, runs, everything, under the sun. So, yeah, he's done. He's done. If the Steelers at this point weren't even, like I said, even close to paying him, he's going to go somewhere else. And I'm sure there's going to be a team, because I get it. He's 26, and when you get to that point as a running back, that's pretty much being 100 in NFL, because they just don't pay running backs a lot of money after that certain point, because now they realize running backs you can just plug in anybody. But Le'Veon Bell isn't anybody. He's he's the most dangerous dual threat player, I think, in football, and you have to pay him like that. I mean,
from what I read, and you guys can tell me if this is too expensive or if he should just take the money and shut up about it. But I mean, it seemed like they offered him $14 million a year.
Yeah.
For 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
But
is that too much? Too low? Like at first, I'm like, pay the man. He's one of the best players in the NFL. You're not as successful without him as you are with him. But is that not enough money? Am I wrong to think that?
Yeah, but you have to understand he's trying to do it for the rest of the running backs coming up. So like the David Johnsons, whose contract's going to be coming up in a couple of years, so that they're able to he wants to set a new standard so that they're able to, reap the benefits of it.
So is this more about money and how much that they're getting over a career, or is it more about, for them, their careers are shorter, so they need to get the money that maybe a quarterback would get, but get it in a more condensed contract, more condensed? Because obviously, what is it, like 4.5, 5 years is the length of a running back or a quarterback? They can play for 15, 20 years, and so maybe they're trying to get that quarterback money in that short frame of time.
Not necessarily quarterback money, but they're trying to up it from where it is. Because, $14
million's not enough?
Well, I mean, they're trying to.
There is risk to being a running back.
It's true, but
you could be hurt, and then all that money is guaranteed.
But like Todd said, he's not just a running back.
I agree with that.
He's
yes.
a running back.
But we're talking about running backs in general.
Right.
Like you're saying he's trying to set a precedent for running backs. Not all running backs can catch the ball, run the ball effectively as Le'Veon Bell. So I guess that was just more of, is it about setting the standard? Is it about him getting paid? Is it about, for me, that makes the most sense, is like, well, guess what? I'm not going to play 15 years. I'm going to play, he's played, 5 years, 4 years so far. Maybe he gets 3 or 4 more years. Not every running back gets that luxury. So is it about getting those guys the money during that time, because they know they're not going to get paid as well as quarterbacks?
Yeah, I'm sure it's part of it.
It's got to be part of it. But so, I mean, I think he deserves to get paid. I don't know what the running back market is. He's such a great player. For the most part, he stayed out of trouble. We'll get to our last piece of news here, and it's another running back, and a guy that only played 7 years. If you're talking about money for running backs, DeMarco Murray retires after 7 years in the NFL, finished his career with about 7,100 yards. He had 49 rushing touchdowns, 3 Pro Bowls. Any good DeMarco Murray stories, anyone? I know I'm throwing you on the spot, but.
Oh, yeah. There was a time that I was playing Todd in the championship, and I only needed, 10 points from him, and he didn't get it for me. So, yeah.
There you go. Good riddance. DeMarco Murray had some good fantasy seasons. His best year came in 2014, over 1,800 yards rushing. That's not even combined with his passing or his receiving yards, which he had 416 of. He also had 13 touchdowns that year. So, decent career there for DeMarco Murray. So now let's talk about some wide receivers, and let's start off with some MHA trivia.
Hey! Who wants to have some fun? I do. Now, you just saying you want to have fun, or do you really want to have fun?
I really want to have fun. I'm just saying I want to have some fun.
You guys ready for some trivia? It's not too late. We're recording this after the All-Star game, the baseball All-Star game. So I'm a little tired, but you guys seem to be pretty strong right out of the gate so far. So let's do some trivia. And the first question is who are, and we kind of did this with the running backs, but the top 5 wide receivers in our league scoring. So the top scoring guys in our league last year, who are the top 5 wide receivers? We'll let Todd go first. We'll go back and forth.
Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brown was second. That's correct. Ding, ding. 228 points. Mikey, who was the number 1 guy? I'm going to make this more difficult.
Take DeAndre Hopkins.
Very good. Wow, this is not the right number. I have 230. I think it was 264. But he was number 1, DeAndre Hopkins. So 2 are off the board. You guys got the first 2. Very proud of you guys. Nice job. Now you got to get 3, 4, and 5. Todd, who's the next guy?
Julio Jones.
That is incorrect. Big for you. Sorry, he was not on that list. Mikey.
Say Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen was the number 3 guy with 207 points. Right now, Mikey's beating Todd 2-1. Todd, a chance for you to tie it up here. Number 4, number 5. Are you cheating on your notes right now? It's okay. You don't have any points on that sheet of paper.
Yeah. Michael Thomas.
That is incorrect. I'm sorry. Mikey, here's a chance for you to win the whole shebang.
Oh, boy.
Number 4, number 5.
4 and 5. Give me Larry Fitzgerald.
Correct. He is number 5 at 105 points. So Mikey wins this game. Do you want to guess at number 4?
Take a stab
Take
at
a
it.
stab.
I'll go with Devontae Adams.
I'm sorry, that's incorrect. It is actually Jarvis Landry, 204
Todd's guy.
points. And so those are your top 5 point scorers in our scoring system. And that'll lead me to, this is what you call a segue in the industry. We're going to go from one Landry question to another. So this other game we're going to call, how many did he have? And you guys are going to try to guess the response. So speaking of Jarvis Landry, how many touchdowns did Jarvis Landry have in 2007?
10.
Todd says 10. What do you think, Mikey? Thinking about his year last year.
I'll say 8.
He actually had 9, so in between. And we mentioned he finished 4th overall. I thought that was a pretty high number. He's always been known for his
Just catches.
receptions. But to have 9 touchdowns, that's pretty good. Pretty good, so think about that. All right, how many did he have? Devontae Adams, how many receptions did he have last year? Mikey, I'll start with you this time.
Say 74.
Okay, Todd?
84.
Mikey was right on the nose, so Mikey must be doing his homework. He was 74 on the dot. Not a lot of receptions. He ended up finishing 8th overall in our point scoring system, so you know he's very touchdown dependent. All right, so how many touchdowns did Keenan Allen have? Todd?
12.
Say 6.
He actually had 10. He had 8 receiving touchdowns, and can you believe it? He had 2 rushing touchdowns. So Keenan Allen, he's usually, more known for his receptions. That's a pretty good number. I don't know if he'll get 2 rushing touchdowns.
No, I don't think that's going to happen.
So the whole point of this, I have a couple more, but the whole point of this is just think about these guys as you're drafting and what they're known for and what they did last year. That could skew their numbers. I think for someone, let's talk about who had more points. This is not actually a game title. But anyway, who had more points between Marvin Jones and Golden Tate? Mikey, we'll start with you this time.
I'll say Golden Tate.
Todd, Golden Tate or Marvin Jones? Who had more points in our scoring system last year?
Oh, Marvin Jones.
It was actually really close. Golden Tate by 1 point.
Oh.
1 point. 165 to 164. I was pretty surprised when I saw this. So maybe this is just the surprise. This is what surprised Eric notes. Maybe that's what all of this is. Like, really? I thought Golden Tate had a way better season, but that's what more touchdowns can do and what more receptions can do. All right, we're going to keep going here. How many touchdowns did Devin Funchess have last year? Todd?
7.
Mikey?
10.
He actually had 8. You guys have been pretty close on here. I guess I'm the only one not paying attention to fantasy sports. All right, speaking of 8 touchdowns, Sammy Watkins had that last year. But how many receptions did Sammy Watkins have last year? Anybody can chime in.
60.
Mikey?
Say 47.
Mikey's closer. It's 39. 39 receptions. But he did have 8 touchdowns. So we figure that. So Will Fuller, he had 7 touchdowns in 2017. How many receptions did Will Fuller have last year? Now, he played in 8 games, so I'll give you that.
He was hurt.
So obviously he didn't play a lot.
Say 29.
30.
28. He had 7 of 8 games, 3 receptions or less. So the games he did play, if he didn't score a touchdown, he seemed like he was bust. Okay. Who was our league leader in targets last year amongst wide receivers? Anybody can chime in. Who led the league in targets amongst wide receivers?
Doug Baldwin. Mikey is
I know it's going through Mikey's mind. Is Eric trying to trick me, or is it the
I'll
obvious?
say DeAndre Hopkins.
It is DeAndre Hopkins. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. He had 174 targets. And that's with most of the season without Deshaun Watson. So go figure that. How many targets did Demaryius Thomas have last season? See, Todd, this is the type of homework you should be doing.
Say 100.
There's nobody else.
104.
Okay. And don't say 105. This isn't.
Price is Right.
Thank you. This is not the Price is Right where you go up one. Like,
Price
how many
is-
targets do you legit think he had last year?
120.
So Todd was closer. It was 142, which was 10th in the league. So you understand what I'm saying with targets. The more you get, the more receptions and points you have opportunities. So he was 10th amongst all wide receivers, despite some of the numbers he had last year. So this is the last one, and we'll get into our wide receiver talk. So how many targets for? Oh, how did I put this one together? Okay, let's just do it this way. I don't think this is what I was thinking initially. So that was when you do it when you're watching the ladies on Raw. Who had more targets last year, Stephon Diggs or Adam Thielen?
Stephon Diggs.
I'll agree.
So you guys think that Stephon Diggs had more targets? That's actually incorrect, and it's by a lot that you're incorrect. He had 95 targets, 47 less than Adam Thielen. So that's the more PPR points. So that could be all moot depending with a new quarterback. So just those are some numbers to think about from the wide receiver position. Always important to look through the targets. Always important to see if they're a PPR guy, if they're a touchdown guy. PPR makes up a lot of points. If you get a lot of receptions, they go a long way. Okay, enough for the games. We've been going back and forth on who our consensus number one is. Remember when we did this? And we thought, oh, it's all Le'Veon Bell, right? No, it's not. Mikey had Ezekiel Elliott. Then quarterbacks were like, oh, it's Aaron Rodgers, right? Nope. Todd. Kirk Cousins. He's staying by his man. So, but do we all agree that Antonio Brown is the number one wide receiver?
Yes.
Oh, it's about time. Oh, it's just so reassuring. Okay, so we all agree with that. So now I guess we're going to play another game. This is kind of like a game. But I'm going to ask you guys, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not concerned, 10 being really concerned, and we're going to go through, hopefully fairly quickly, Todd, fairly quickly, about the number 2 to number 10 wide receivers. We know Antonio Brown, he's good, he's number 1. There's not much we need to talk about him. If you want to learn about Antonio Brown, go do it somewhere else. He's great. He's going to be the number 1 guy, number 1 wide receiver, at least in my opinion, and these guys on the broadcast here. So we'll start with Mikey. DeAndre Hopkins, on a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you? There's some quarterback situations. We don't know if Deshaun Watson's 100%. He's going to be ready to go. Touchdown regression is a big thing. He had 13, right, last year? That's a lot. So how concerned are you about DeAndre Hopkins on a scale of 1 to 10 being drafted in the first round because that's where he's going to go?
Yeah, not concerned at all. I have him at a 1.
Okay.
And I think that's regardless of quarterback situation or not. So 10 starts that he had with Tom Savage and TJ Yates last year,
Okay.
he averaged in 10 starts 6 receptions, 92 yards, and a touchdown in those 10 starts.
You said you had some pretty good nuggets today. Nice job, Mikey.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm not really worried about that. Lamar Miller's the running back still over there. So I think, yeah, he'll probably have some regression with touchdowns, but I don't think it'll be by a lot. They don't really have a threat in the running game that's going to take touchdowns away from him. Lamar Miller had 8 touchdowns in the last 2 years rushing the ball. So I don't think that's going to affect him at all. I have him at a 1. I'm not concerned.
No concern about Will Fuller? He
No.
had 7 touchdowns in very limited time. Maybe he's due for a breakout.
Yeah, but he doesn't really get any of the targets inside the red zone. They almost force-feed Hopkins when it comes to
It
the
seems
red
like
zone.
Will Fuller's more over the top, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, no concern there.
No concern. Todd, do you have any concerns about DeAndre Hopkins?
I just put it at 3 just because if Watson gets hurt, because obviously Watson's more.
Without looking, who's the backup?
It's
we
not.
know?
It's not Savage. It's Yates.
No, it's not Yates. Mikey, do you know?
I don't.
It's actually Brandon Whedon. So there you go.
Brandon.
According to this magazine, and I'm assuming this magazine's right, but Brandon Whedon is the backup. So do we agree he's the number 2 wide receiver off the board?
Yes.
Okay. So I had him at a 3, similar to Todd. It's hard to replicate 13 touchdowns, but you're going to be drafting him. He's going in the first round, probably in the middle of the first round. That's all I really had. I mean, he had 11 touchdowns a couple of years ago, so I don't think that's very fluky. So I wasn't really concerned. Here's a bigger concern, maybe to me, maybe to you guys. We'll see. Odell Beckham coming off an injury. There's a lot of weapons in New York, Todd. We're on a scale of 1 to 10. How concerned are you about Odell Beckham?
I have him at a 5, and that's just more based on the more weapons they have in New York, and the fact too sometimes when Odell Beckham doesn't get his way or he gets frustrated that his production kind of goes down a little bit. I mean, we saw him get in a fight with a kicking net, so that was that was something in his head that just messed with him. But I mean, he's still the number one target. Obviously, still the number one target in there. Eli still trusts to go. Still is he'll go to Odell first no matter what. Obviously, drafting Saquon Barkley. I mean, that's going to change the dynamic a little bit. But Odell is still the best weapon they have.
What about you, Mikey?
I've got it as a 2.
Oh, wow. So very, very low.
Yeah, not really concerned at all. He's in the same boat as Le'Veon Bell. He's in a contract year, and he's trying to do the same thing that Bell's doing except for wide receivers. He's trying to set that market. And so I think him being in a contract year is really going to motivate him to put up big numbers. And you look at before the injury, which was a broken leg, nothing with the knee, nothing with the ankle, anything like that. The 3 years prior, he was over 1,300 yards in all 3 of those seasons. He had double-digit touchdown in all 3 of those seasons. And I actually take the opposite approach in thinking that, well, the other weapons are actually going to help free him up. He may not, see the constant double teams.
He dealt with a lot of double teams.
That he got before. I think the threat of a running game is actually going to help open him up. And I think he could have a real breakout year, possibly like 1,500-yard type of year.
I would say I gave him a 4, and my only issue was Eli Manning. And he's older. If he goes down with an injury, can we name the backup to Eli Manning?
Davis Webb.
Wow, very good, Todd.
There
you go. So that could hurt him immensely. And if a quarterback goes down and the backup is in, they're going to rely more on the running game and the tight ends. So it's not on what Odell Beckham can do. It's about what happens with Eli Manning. And there's a good chance he gets worse as he gets older. So, I mean, I think if everything's in place, Eli's fine, Odell's fine. If Eli's in trouble, I think Odell's in trouble. So there you go. A little all over the scale there, 2, 4, and 5 from the group here. The next guy I have on the list is Julio Jones. Touchdowns obviously just aren't his thing, right? Obviously, another issue with Julio is could Matt Ryan bounce back to put up the numbers he did 2 years ago to really give Julio a good chance to put up some first-round numbers? I don't know if he's first round. You guys can tell me. But Todd, what do you think about Julio 1 to 10? How concerned are you about Julio Jones?
No,
oh, wow, like you're no
concern.
You just gave me that look.
No concerns. No concerns. I mean that offense is still high powered, and yeah, you want Julio to get more touchdowns, but he still gets the receptions, still gets the yardage. I have no concern.
Wow, and that was the quickest Todd's ever talked in the history of the show. He loves Julio, and for those wondering, you have him number 3 overall, right? What do you think about Julio? Are you that confident like Todd is?
I had him at a 2, so I'm not terribly concerned. He doesn't get the double-digit touchdowns, but I mean, you look at what he's done. He's been over 1,400 yards in 4 straight seasons, over 80 catches 4 straight seasons, and like last year, a lot of that's kind of fluky. I mean, he was 3rd in targets inside the 10 overall,
right,
in the NFL, and only had 3 touchdowns. So I think there's some positive regression that's going on. I think he could probably double that number, take it to like 6, 7, somewhere around there.
But is that worthy of late first round, early second round numbers? Like, what do you expect from a guy that's going in the late first round as a number 1 wide receiver?
Oh, you're telling me if the guy's going to get over 80 catches and over 1,400 yards? Heck yeah, I'm right on board with that.
But is that better than some of the guys after him, and Michael Thomas or Devontae Adams or guys like that?
Sure. I think that Julio, because of his physical frame and what you've seen he's been able to do, Julio's like one of those, he's a week winner.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So, like, if he has one of those breakout performances, he's a receiver that we've seen in the past can put up 35 to 40 on any given week, where I don't know if those other guys can do that.
Sure. Sure, but I mean, Mr. Safe talking over here. I had him at 6. Honestly, I don't think, and it's not that I don't think he can put up good numbers. I don't think he can put up great numbers. I think I have him outside the top 5 amongst my wide receivers because of what they have there. And first off, you got to hope that Matt Ryan can put up the numbers he did 2 years ago with the people that they have in Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman. If Austin Hooper gets any better, obviously the Calvin Ridley there, Sanoose is still in the mix. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people to ignore, and that's if he's putting up those numbers.
Well,
if they're that good, they don't need to put up those numbers. I don't know. We're going to see what second year of Sarkisian looks like.
Should be better.
But, I mean, if you're asking me who's going to put up better numbers, I'll say Odell, Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen. I think they have better potential. There's less people they have to worry about. Where we talked about this on the last show. There were some weeks that Julio was kind of disappeared, where he put up like 5 and 59, as opposed to I'm getting more consistent play. And there, maybe it's just Mr. Safe over here, but if I'm going to draft a guy in the first round, which is probably going to go, in my opinion, I don't think he's going to put up first-round numbers. He'll put up good numbers. I'll take 80 receptions, 1,300 yards, and 6-7 touchdowns, but not over some of the guys who I think can be 90 catches. You know, I mean, still 1,300 is a lot. But if you're asking me who's got a better touchdown rate, you know, Keenan Allen has a better chance. He's in my opinion. I think Michael Thomas has a really good chance. So that's my biggest concern. That's what I would say number 6 for me. Let's keep going. We got a lot of receivers to talk about. Michael Thomas. We'll start with Mikey this time. We saw it last year. Saints run the ball a lot now. It seems like they're pretty effective, although Mark Ingram will be out the first 4 games of the season. But for Michael Thomas, only had 5 touchdowns last year, and that probably was based on a lot of the running. Alvin Kamara coming out of nowhere to take a lot of those touches away. Are we concerned about Michael Thomas in 2018?
Not at all. I mean, I've got him as a 1.
Wow,
So,
okay.
yeah, I'm not concerned at all. He was 6th in targets. He had 149, which is incredible. I think his touchdowns should go up. I mean, not only is, Ingram not there for the first couple of games, but, what I like about him is he's a tall, bigger guy, but he plays all over the field. He just doesn't play outside. He plays in the slot, too. So, I mean, he's going to have multiple opportunities to score, to catch the ball, everything. Somebody had brought up what receivers, we would look for towards the end of the season in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to be one of those guys.
There you go, Alan. There's your answer.
Yeah, there's your answer. Okay. So in the playoff weeks, the 3 playoff weeks, Michael Thomas plays Tampa Bay, Carolina, and Pittsburgh. And so last year against Tampa Bay, Michael Thomas averaged 7 catches, 80 yards in the games against Tampa. Games against Carolina, he played them 3 times. So the 2 regular season games and the playoff game, averaged 7 catches, 96 yards, and a touchdown in each of those games. And then you throw in Pittsburgh in there, in the Dome, that's probably going to be a high-scoring game with a lot of points. So, yeah, if you're looking for somebody that you need towards the end of the year, he's going to be one of those guys.
Great job there. Todd, what do you think? Michael Thomas, any concerns?
I'm all good
Am
with
I
it.
the only one concerned about? Did I not even come up with this game? These top 10 guys?
Like I said before, you always worry about, sophomore slumps with second-year wide receivers. Yeah, he caught 104 balls. He's attached to Drew Brees. That is, and that's a big part of it. So I'm not concerned with him. I mean, he's starting to put himself up there with the, up there with the Antonio Browns and Julio's and of the world. So I'm not concerned.
And no concern about Ted Ginn Jr. coming in?
No, not even close.
Okay. Well, there you go. No one's concerned. I wasn't concerned. I had him as a 2 for a team that was 5th in the NFL in rushing yards per game. The Saints were also 5th in passing yards per game. And I think those 23 touchdowns from Drew Brees, which was his lowest since 2003, that's fluky. I think that's going to go up just based on pure volume. It was just one of those years where everything went right for them on the ground. Not saying that I couldn't do it this year, but I think that the odds are stacked that Drew Brees is going to throw 23 touchdowns again either. So I really like Michael Thomas as well. A guy we mentioned already on the show that could score some touchdowns, but not a big PPR guy, and that's Devontae Adams. Also, Jimmy Graham's in town.
Jimmy.
Watch out now. Jimmy is excited. So Devontae Adams, Todd, are you concerned? Give
I'm
me a
not.
number.
I have him at a 1. I think this is going to be his.
Wow,
I
1.
think this is going to be his breakout year. No more Jordy Nelson.
You heard it here, folks. Todd Diamond saying Davante Adams breakout season.
Breakout season. There's no more Jordy Nelson. I think Aaron Rodgers now really kind of trusts Davante Adams. I mean, kind of toward the beginning, he was he was dropping a lot of passes, wasn't really on the same page, but now I think it's all systems go, and I think he's gonna have 1,200 yards receiving. And I put a weird number here, but I'm not going to say it. I think he at least will have.
What does that mean? You put a number down and you realize that's crazy.
That's a little crazy there.
He had 20 touchdowns for Davante Adams.
Yeah.
Big
So
kilo.
yeah. So we're gonna brush that number down a little bit. I think he gets at least 10 or 11 touchdowns because I think that's going to be.
That's what he's had in the past, though. Is that a breakout really for him? I mean, last year Adams only had 885 yards. So I mean, the point total would be huge, or the yard total would be quite the increase. So you're still staying around 10 or 11.
10 or 11, yeah.
What do you think, Mikey? Davante Adams, breakout season in 2018.
I agree with Todd, and numbers do too. So last 2 seasons overall, Davante Adams led the NFL in red zone targets with 46.
You write that down, Todd?
And also in touchdowns with 22. So, I mean, that's a big factor.
But Jimmy Graham.
Yeah,
Jimmy Graham.
And
10 touchdowns last year.
That's right. We'll talk about him later. The other thing is, they're going to throw in the red zone. Did you know, and Aaron Rodgers, he was hurt last year, but the prior year, Green Bay threw the ball 67% of the time in the red zone. That number is huge.
That's massive.
And they still really they have a shaky running back situation. So, I mean, in my eyes, I don't see how that really changes at all. I still expect them to throw around 70%. The other thing is, going back to Michael Thomas, I think Davante Adams is another one of those guys late in the year that has plus side matchups in the playoffs. So he plays Atlanta, Chicago, and the Jets in his 3 weeks. So they played Atlanta last year. He had 8 receptions, 99 yards, and a touchdown in that game. They played Chicago twice. First game he had 5 catches, only 13 yards, but did have a touchdown. Second game he had 8 catches, 90 yards, and a touchdown. And the other game's against the Jets, the crappy Jets. So, yeah.
That's a nice schedule.
Yeah, it's
that's delicious schedule.
It's a very nice
I'm licking my
schedule.
fingers.
Yeah, but I agree with the fact that no Jordy Nelson, he's the clear number 1 target. And being the clear number 1 target in an Aaron Rodgers offense, it's good.
But he's never had over 76 receptions in a season. Does that concern you? Because if you're saying, and I don't know where you guys have him at, but if you're saying he's a top 5 guy, then he needs to have more than 75 receptions, unless you think he's going to have 14 to 16 touchdowns.
But give him a break on this. So 2 years ago was the real huge season that Jordy Nelson had. So, a lot of that volume was going his way. Last year, you could kind of see the tide change, and Adams was becoming the number 1 guy. But Rodgers got hurt, and the passing game was just really off kilter after that happened.
Hurt.
Yeah.
And he got hurt, too.
So, no, this is going to be the first time where he's like the full number 1 with Rodgers healthy. I could see that number going from 74 last year up to 90 this year.
Okay. Wow, a lot of love for Davante Adams. I was on your guys' side. I had him as a 3. Keep going. How about A.J. Green? Oh, he plays for such a bad team. Just imagine if he was on a good team. Bad team, obviously Andy Dalton and his inconsistencies. Tell me what you think about A.J. Green. He's some years he's up, some years he's down. What do you think about him this year?
I got him as a 6. I got a little bit of concern with
6.
A.J. Green.
About time this game kicked into high gear.
Here's my thing with him. So he's age 30 now. So he's
up there.
Yeah, he's losing some of his speed, and Cincinnati has never done anything to help him out. He's still running around with the same crew of Brandon LaFell, Tyler Boyd, John Ross, who was
They tried to get him with somebody in John Ross.
They tried, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
So now you've got, a little bit of an aging receiver who's all by himself still. So
isn't that good? More targets. More targets.
I would say that. But he had a ton of targets last year, but he had his career worst catch rate. He only caught 52% of the passes that were thrown his way last year. So, yeah,
So let me ask you, where is A.J. Green on your rankings then? Is he top 10? If he's a 6.
Yeah, I believe on my rankings I had him just outside, maybe 11 or 12.
Okay, so yeah, outside the
So,
top 10. That's
yeah,
you're
I got
talking third round, early third round.
I got some concern there, just
Wow.
with that whole team in general, because they have no threat of a run game.
The new Cleveland Browns.
Well, they have no threat of a run game. I couldn't believe they brought
Joe Mixon.
Okay.
No, yeah.
It's 3 yards carry. I couldn't believe they brought Marvin Lewis back again. Andy Dalton's just kind of average.
Yep.
And Eifert's hurt all the time. So yeah, it's not an ideal situation for him.
So 6, Todd. Do you agree with a 6?
Oh, I got more than that. I got an 8.
Oh, watch out.
They
but
need-
you don't have him that low on your rankings.
I have him at 7,
You have
but
7th.
But that's just because that's the only option they have there. But they need to get rid-
Giovanni Bernard.
North
How
Carolina.
dare you say they have no one else?
North Carolina. But they need to get rid of Andy Dalton. That's for
They're
another
not getting rid
podcast.
of him this year.
I know they're not getting rid, but they eventually need to get rid of him, just like they need to get rid of Marvin Lewis. I mean, both of those players just sounds horrible, but they both need to die. Like they just need to cut the
Whoa.
umbilical cord and
Whoa.
just.
Well, move on is the word you probably want to use. Die.
They need to die.
Oh my goodness,
But
Todd is.
they're like, I mean, they're like the Sith. They just won't. They just you think you got them, and they just keep on coming back.
Wow,
So
interesting. So a lot of AJ Green hate on this show. I had him as a 5. I'm concerned about him. He's actually like from Antonio Brown to Devontae Adams. That's kind of the upper tier. And then he's kind of part of that next tier. So he's definitely falling in my rankings as well. A guy that is a PPR guy, but he's also an injury-prone guy, and that's our friend, close confidant, Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen.
So where your concerns lie with him, Todd? A lot of injuries in his career. Also, does Mike Williams come into the mix? The first-round draft pick from first-round draft
Todd's
pick,
been
right?
burned before.
No, yeah, Mike Williams is like down on the wide receiver chart for stats. I don't even count Mike Williams anymore. But Keenan Allen, I have a 6. I mean, obviously when
That's
he
huge.
Obviously when he's healthy and he's on his game, he could be one of the best wide receivers in the league, and they love and Phillip Rivers loves throwing him the ball. But obviously the injury concern is what it's
But
only
he played all 16 games last year.
Well, let's see if he can do it again, because we've seen it in the past. It just takes one play. I mean, he got hurt in a preseason game, for God's sakes, and barely got. And it was a non-contact injury, and those are the.
But isn't he still young enough to where it's not a concern quite yet?
Yeah, but when you have that many injuries so early on in your career, I mean, if he was like in his close to his 30.
But you were just saying that AJ Green has no one to fight with.
Yeah, but AJ Green.
If you don't believe in Mike Williams, then Keenan Allen doesn't have anybody to really worry about, right? No Hunter Henry.
Tyrell Williams.
There you go.
Travis Benjamin.
True, but it's just more of the injury stuff. I mean, it just like I said.
So if I
Okay.
guaranteed you that he was going to play 16 games this year, currently you have him ranked 8th on your list. Would you move him up, or is 8 based on the fact that he plays 16 games?
8 is based on the fact he plays 16.
So what happens in preseason is if he trips and he sprains an ankle? Does that freak you out?
Well, if he trips and his ankle's worse than what they say on the field, yeah, I'm gonna move. Then
You're moving him down the rankings.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap. Wrap it up. So that's the only thing. But if he plays all 16 games, number 8. I'll
Do you know how
draw.
many targets that Keenan Allen had last year? 159 targets. That's elite. That's elite. And Hunter Henry is gone. Antonio Gates is gone.
Well, he might come back. You never know.
Yeah, so what? What does that mean? They're going to throw him in there at the goal line?
He
and just throw it to-
shuffles. He doesn't run.
Yeah. They have to just roll him into the end zone.
So they can just
I
break-
I love Keenan Allen. I only have him as a 2. Phillip Rivers is back. I think Mike Williams will be better, and I think he'll help and take some of that pressure off. Gordon can catch passes too.
Yeah, I'd rather have Gordon over Mike Williams, because Mike Williams still hasn't shown.
Yeah, but that's a different. We're not talking about flex categories right now.
Well, in this case, we should, because Mike Williams doesn't. Because we're talking about Mike Williams, but
I think Allen has even a better year than he did last year. I think those 6 touchdowns will go up. Touchdowns are fluky. So if they're fluky, then they're more likely to go up than they are going to go down.
so more yards.
So I love Keenan Allen. More yards. He's going to have – I think he'll have similar 160 targets. because Phillips loves to throw to him.
Well, and he led the NFL in red zone targets last year with 24. And so with no Hunter Henry, it should go.
On paper, it should go up.
Yeah.
Love me some Keenan Allen this year.
Yeah, well, paper looks awesome, but you got to make sure it produces.
Todd's like, but paper's flimsy, guys. All right.
Yeah, just
Let's talk about a guy that I was burned by last year. Oh, my tushy hurts so bad, Mikey. Oh, it's so bad. Mike Evans. Oh, drafted him 5th overall. He's on a bad team. Jameis Winston, after his 3-game suspension, he'll be back with the team. Are there a lot of concerns? I mean, from where I've seen, now obviously our league is different than other leagues being based on where he's being drafted, but he's kind of a guy that looks like he would kind of go late in the 2nd, early in the 3rd round. Mikey, what do you think about when you see Mike Evans? Are we getting a value pick if he's going that late, or are you trying to stay away from him because Tampa is pretty smelly?
I am concerned, and I had him at an 8.
Whoa. Wow, yeah, that's a big number. That's like almost a 10.
Yeah, you're going to know right away, I'll tell you that. If you look at the first 3 games on their schedule, it's brutal. At New Orleans, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh.
oh.
So,
But you were just saying before, Pittsburgh was easy to get points on.
well, no, that's what I'm saying. I mean, all 3 of those teams are going to put up a ton of points, especially against that crap Tampa defense. So what I'm saying is you're going to know right away. They're going to need Mike Evans to bust out in those 3 games. They're going to have to score.
Because Ryan Fitzpatrick will be the quarterback for those 3 games.
Right, and if he can't put up points in those 3 games, it's a lost cause. Here's what I didn't like, and I think this is the difference in what happened last year and what happened the year before when he had a really, really good year. He had 37 less targets last year than he did the year before, and that was because of Deshaun Jackson eating into him. You know, they acquired him, and Deshaun Jackson took away some of that volume.
Sure.
The other thing is I mean, he's always been known for his drops. So that's part of the headache that goes along with it. The erratic quarterback play goes along with it. Bad offensive line goes with it. The other thing is now he's finally getting called the referee in these offensive pass interference penalties all the time. So that goes with it,
he got
too.
frustrated, and he got suspended for a game.
That's right. So, I mean, there's a lot to be concerned with when it comes to Mike Evans. So, yeah, I got him at an 8. I think if you can get him, that he's still okay in the 3rd round. But, I mean, I'd be hesitant going in 2nd round, just to be honest.
So if you're at the end of the draft, right?
Right.
So if he's there at the 3rd round, at the very end of the 3rd round, you'll be happy to get him there?
It'd be a possibility.
So what numbers do you expect to see from Mike Evans then? Realistically.
Realistic.
Not based on what you think. If this happens. What kind of numbers do you think you'd see from Mike Evans?
Somewhere in the 70s in catches. You know, he'll probably be a little bit over 1,000 yards. And if he gets 5 or 6 touchdowns, okay.
Yeah. That's about what he had last year.
Yeah.
And he finished 20th amongst our system in wide receivers. So,
yeah,
late 3rd round, early 4th.
Yeah.
Todd, Mike Evans, are you an 8?
I'm a 7.
Okay.
Still is bad. I mean, I agree with Mikey and all that. With all the situation going on, it doesn't help when when your face of your franchise is an idiot and can't, and is getting suspended for the first 3 games. That doesn't help the situation either. But obviously last year, like I said, he had 1,000 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns. And Mike Evans is supposed to be one of the elite wide receivers in the league. That's just straight garbage. So
it was 3 games last year where Mike Evans played with Fitzmagic. He had 1 game where his 3 catches, 95 yards and a touchdown. He had 5 catches, 92 yards, no touchdowns. And another game with 6 receptions, 78 yards. So he likes him. But, I mean, it's only for 3 games. I mean, you never know if he could get hurt. I put him at as a 4. And the reason I put it as a 4 is because I don't think he'll get drafted. Like, if people draft him in the middle of the 2nd round, it's an 8. But if you draft him in the 3rd round, I think Mike Evans is a great NFL talent. Sure, he has some drops. But, I mean, he's put up some incredible numbers. But I just think I said 4 based on where he's going to be drafted. And it should be in the 3rd round. If he gets drafted in the 2nd, I think that's just too high compared to other options out there. Okay, let's go to, I think, our number. What does that mean? What does that mean?
It means I can't wait to talk about this
next one. This is the last one amongst the top 10 guys, and it's Doug Baldwin. So much to like, so much to dislike. Concerns bad offensive line. The team as a whole was disappointing. The defense is not going to give them great opportunities. And since Mikey is just chomping at the bit, what is your number that you're concerned about on the scale of 1 to 10?
1.
Wow, no kidding.
He is in my top 5.
Get out of town, ladies and gentlemen.
I love Doug Baldwin.
Wow.
Love him.
Of course, I drafted him last year. He doesn't stink, but he's not great. Mikey's going to draft him. He's going to be a top elite wide receiver. Tell us why you think he's going to end up being a top 5 type of wide receiver.
Okay, so first of all, he's Mr. Reliable. So last 5 seasons has played all 16 games in every single season. So injuries have not been a concern whatsoever.
That just means he's due. I'm sorry, go ahead.
But I want to throw this at you, okay? So back in 2015, 8 games in, Jimmy Graham got hurt with a torn patella tendon. In the 8 games following that injury, here were Doug Baldwin's statistics. 51 receptions, 724 yards, and 12 touchdowns.
That's absurd.
It is absolutely
in 8
absurd.
games.
In 8
12
games.
touchdowns in 8 games.
In 8 games. So the other thing is this is going to be a Seattle defense that is nowhere near as good as they are. They could be playing behind in games with a running game that could be suspect and Russell Wilson having to try and throw the ball in order to put up points. And doesn't have very many options. They lost Paul Richardson as well. Mm-hmm. This could easily be a top 5 season for Doug Baldwin.
Wow. Paul Richardson and Jimmy Graham combined 101 receptions, 1,223 yards, and 16 touchdowns. Are they going to go to the replacements of Ed Dixon and Jerron Brown? They'll go to a little bit, but you're right. Most of that's probably going to go to Doug Baldwin.
Yes,
so
sir.
Mikey says 1. What do you say, Todd?
I say a 5, and I'm just basing off of just the crappy offensive line that Russell Wilson has to throw behind, and potentially run behind too as well. Obviously, I have Doug Baldwin at number 9 in my rankings, but that's if the offensive line can hold up and Russell Wilson can have time to throw the ball, yes, I do agree with you that Doug Baldwin can be, the options in Seattle are slim to none at this point. And Doug Baldwin's the last one kind of standing. I mean, Tyler Lockett's more of that slot guy in there, so, but you really don't have an outside threat, and Doug Baldwin's it. So I say Doug Baldwin will, we'll probably go 1,400 yards.
That's going to be better than your number 5 wide receiver.
Yeah. Just because I have them ranked in there, they can have
1,400 yards is elite.
I just see a lot of shootout potential in their division, especially.
So I think that'll.
But have we seen Seattle do shootouts on a regular basis?
They're going to have to.
Yeah.
But that's the concern: is can they keep that up?
It's a different team.
And that's not a team that they're used to putting together. I mean, is that possible? I believe Russell Wilson could do a lot of great, amazing things. He's a top-notch NFL quarterback.
It's a similar situation.
But you're telling me they're going to put out there and put 40 points up a game?
They're a similar team to like what Houston was last year. A defense that's not really good, a mobile quarterback that's going to have to score points, that's going to have to force-feed a guy.
The thing I'll say about Baldwin is that he had some shitty games last year. Apologize for the cursing, but that dude, the thing about Doug Baldwin, you're right, he plays every game, but what does that equal to? Counting stats. That just means he plays enough where he's adding up stats and they look good at the end of the year. There was a lot of games. He averaged 4 catches and 60 yards last year per game. That's not elite numbers. And in 9 games, he had 60 yards or less. So 9 out of the 16, he's putting okay numbers, and they just end up adding up at the end of the year. For someone who had Doug Baldwin, he'd have a game where he'd get a touchdown, and you're like, all right.
I'm excited.
But, I mean, there's that possibility that, someone's got to get those Paul Richardson, Jimmy Graham stats, and he'd be the first in line. So think about that. Ugh. So a lot of questions. I thought when I was just deciding how we're going to talk about these top-notch wide receivers, I thought it'd be interesting to go through the questions and have these guys talk about them. So we'll keep going here. Wow, we've already talked quite a bit. So we'll try to get through these quicker, Todd. We'll talk about some position battles. And one of the ones that jumped out to me was good old Adam Thielen versus Stephon Diggs. I had Diggs. Mikey had Thielen. We both saw who went further in the playoffs. But Mikey, talk about as we go through these, I'm going to ask you, we're going to have position battles. Who would you draft first? So between Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs, who are you drafting first between the two?
I'm going to take Thielen. I'm always going to take the guy that's going to have more catches. And I believe that guy's Thielen. It's just it's the safer route to go. I think Diggs has more of the big play upside, but I could always count on Thielen getting 10 points a week, and I'll gladly take that.
What about you, Todd? Do you want the big play, the big potential to win you a week by himself, Stephon Diggs, or the consistent receptions PPR guy in Adam Thielen?
I take Adam Thielen. Just because the fact, he's another version of like Jarvis Landry. Just all the catches, just give me all the catches. So Adam Thielen.
We'll make it a clean sweep. I think when we've talked about it, touchdowns are fluky. Stephon Diggs had 8 touchdowns last year, but the consistent PPR points, Thielen had 20 more points scoring in our league compared to Stephon Diggs. The thing I think that stands out in this question is Kirk Cousins. Who's he's going to like more? I don't know. We don't know how much they're going to throw. At least me and Mikey believe that it's going to be throwing less because they're going to run the ball, more defense. In that case, I guess that would be the safer side with Thielen. But we'll see we don't know how that's going to play out. So we're just going to keep going here. How about and as I was typing this up, I'm not going to ask who you're going to draft first, 'cause I think we all know who's going to get drafted first. And that's going to be Demaryius Thomas. Am I right? You think Emmanuel Sanders should be drafted first, okay?
Yes.
Go for it. I thought this was a dumb question once I started getting into my notes, but you're saying that if you had the option, you're going to draft Emmanuel Sanders over Demaryius Thomas.
Yeah.
Which is silly, by the way.
I think Demaryius has lost a step. I really do. He still has the big body that can go get a ball when he wants to catch it. But, I think he's lost any kind of big play potential. He's lost speed. And I see Sanders as being the more safer guy, especially if they start putting him more in the slot. You saw last year what Thielen did. Case Keenum's a guy that likes to throw it over the middle of the field. And so I think if you put Sanders in the slot and you play him more on those little short middle routes, I think Sanders is going to end up with a lot more catches than Thomas. And I think Sanders has more big play potential at this point than Thomas does as well.
Is he going to get more PPR points, though?
I think so. Wow. As long as he stays healthy, which is a big thing because he wasn't healthy last year.
Right.
But, yeah, I think.
But in the overall, so I'll ask you this then. It's 4th, 5th round, and you have the option for both of them. You're going to take Sanders first?
I am. Yes.
Based on where, I don't, because to me, it's, because like I said, when I was diving into this question, people are going to draft Demaryius Thomas in the 3rd, 4th round, and Sanders maybe the 6th or 7th round. And so for you, that you'd let them pick Demaryius Thomas early and then take the better value later.
I think they're making a mistake.
Okay, what do you think, Todd? Tell Mikey why he's wrong. Tell him.
I think with Demaryius Thomas, it always came down to, who was his quarterback. Now, it does help when you have Peyton Manning throwing you the ball.
God damn it, Todd. Peyton Manning is gone.
I know. I don't want to let it go.
We all love Peyton Manning. He's all in our souls, but this is no more Peyton Manning time.
I know. It's Case Keenum time. I know. But I think with the problem too is with Demaryius is when you have inconsistency at quarterback, I think that kind of messes with Demaryius Thomas with his focus, and he still drops plenty of passes, and you hope he figures that out. But I think Demaryius still, and I know you said he lost a little bit of maybe his step a little bit, but they still target him in the red zone, which you want, and also the fact too, Demaryius isn't afraid too of going across the middle too, just because he's a more bigger body than Emmanuel Sanders, and injury compared to Emmanuel Sanders, I'd probably want to put my money on Demaryius not getting hurt as quickly as maybe Emmanuel Sanders would. So I think Demaryius this year, new quarterback, he knows who the quarterback is. I think that's gonna help him, and I think you may see shades of what he put up during. I don't want to say this, Skip. I'll say it, but the Peyton Manning years.
I would have drafted. I would let people pick Demaryius Thomas early, and I would pick Sanders later. But if you're asking me who's going to have more points at the end of the year, I still think it's Thomas. I still think he's got the big enough body where he can get those targets from Case Keenum. If Sanders isn't hurt running his mouth, then
I'm a Sanders guy.
Yeah, I know you are, and I'm really neither one of these guys. Give me someone new. But I still think, based on his body size, he'll get more targets. He'll get more PPR points. I still don't think they're either going to put up huge numbers, but we'll kind of see how this offense goes. We're still kind of in the air about that. All right, so let's talk about some Browns wide receivers. Should we move on? Josh Gordon versus Jarvis Landry. I guess I could have put Corey Coleman in there, but that just didn't seem as fun to talk about these two. One guy has the ability that we've seen one season where he put up just some incredible numbers. Then you have Jarvis Landry. He's put up some incredible numbers of himself, a little more consistent last few years, but it's the Browns. It's the quarterback situation. We don't know what's going to happen, but if we were drafting today, who would you draft first? Todd, we'll let you go first this time.
Jarvis Landry. Next question.
Not even close. Now, you had Jarvis Landry last year, right?
I sure did. So,
and you're not concerned.
I'm not concerned because I think he brings that kind of leadership to a team that, let's face it, hasn't won
ever.
A
long time. Okay.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I mean, let's just be real with that. But I think he's gonna whip that wide receiver core into shape, and a wide receiver that is consistent, because we're talking about consistency in fantasy football, and somebody who knows, like, you throw them the ball, they're gonna catch it, they're gonna get that first down. Now I know the touchdown, we'll see how the touchdowns go, because that's gonna predicate it on who's quarterbacking. Is it gonna be Baker Mayfield? Is it gonna be Tyrod Taylor? So we'll see how that one goes. But other than that, you have somebody who's consistent, who catches a lot of passes. I'm going there. Now, obviously, Josh Gordon has that big play ability, and we've seen that when he has played. I know it feels like a decade now since he's played football, but when he is on the field, Josh Gordon, looks like a top 5 wide receiver. But right now, if I'm drafting, Jarvis Landry, PPR all day.
So Todd, has them right next to each other in the rankings. So at least you picked the correct one. Last show, you had some problems picking the correct ones in the correct order. But you did have Landry one spot over Josh Gordon, 18, and Gordon 19. We just figure this out for you, please.
I would begrudgingly take Landry, but I am staying as far away from both of them as I possibly can.
Preach it.
There's just no way. Okay, so 3 years in Buffalo as a starter for Tyrod Taylor. They finished last or second to last in pass attempts every single year in that offense with Tyrod Taylor. I don't want a piece of either one of those two guys. And let me tell you something else about those 3 years. Not once in any of those 3 years did anybody have more than 60 receptions. Gross.
That shit is gross.
If Tyrod Taylor's quarterback, I want none of it.
Well, then it's got to be Baker Mayfield. Then put the rookie in.
So you think the rookie's going to come in and just throw 90 pass or 140 targets to Landry?
It's gonna light a fire, especially for that franchise. I get it. He's a rookie quarterback, but he's got that passion. He's got that passion. I think that goes a long way.
I could not believe you had both of them in your top 20. I could not believe it. But
Yeah. That's a tough one to swallow, Todd. I mean, to have them both in the top 20 and expect them to both put up really good numbers?
Gordon's a blunt away from being expelled forever.
Jarvis Landry, I think Jarvis Landry will kind of, mentor Gordon a little bit and help it. So
mentor. That's what Josh Gordon's looking for. Mentors.
Well, he needs that. There wasn't anybody to mentor him. What was gonna probably the personnel that was there when he was there would probably straight garbage. At least you have a wide receiver that comes in, knows how to work, keeps his mind on football. So that's just something to go. But
Josh Gordon's catch rate was 42% last year. Now a lot of that could be bad quarterback
Small
play.
Sample size too.
Sure. He played in 5 games, 18 receptions, had a touchdown, 335 yards. One 100-yard game. Different quarterback, obviously, going to be this year. I'm agreeing with Mikey. I don't want to have anything to do with these guys. If Landry falls far enough, which I don't think he will because he's such a big name, especially after he finished 4th in our league in scoring last year, I just don't. Oof, man, oh man, that Brown situation. Even if Baker Mayfield is half of what you want him to be, I still don't think that's enough stats to warrant drafting him with a high pick, a top 20, top 25, top 30 pick. So I don't know. It's a gross situation, but that you never know. I mean, the NFL changes on a yearly basis. Another situation that has a new quarterback is the Chiefs. So let's talk about Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins. So we'll let Mikey go first this time, and we talked about Sammy Watkins, just 39 receptions. That's kind of been his career. Low reception totals, but some touchdown totals. Tyreek Hill can do it all over the field. He can break some long ones. He can, run some really good routes. What do you think about this situation? Is it Tyreek Hill by a mile, or should we be a little closer?
Closer than you think. I would still take Tyreek Hill, though, and give Sammy Watkins, cut him a little slack. He was one of the guys that was stuck in that hellhole in Buffalo with that last and passing attempts thing.
Sure.
He was in a better situation last year with the Rams with Goff, but I cut him a little bit of slack there too because he got traded before the season started. So he didn't really have a chance to learn the McVay system. He kind of had to do it on the fly. So I actually look at Watkins as a little bit of a sleeper this year going into that Andy Reid offense, which is always usually a pretty good offense. I think Patrick Mahomes is probably more of the type quarterback that works for what he is, which is that down-the-field threat, go jump and catch kind of guy, with a big-arm quarterback. So I think there's a lot of big play potential for Watkins. I would still take Tyreek Hill because he's more proven, and he's one of those guys that anytime he touches the ball can score a touchdown. So I would take Hill, but it's closer than I think most people would think.
Do you think, before I let Todd chime in, where do you kind of have around Tyreek Hill? Where do you kind of have him drafted? I kind of had him, my initial rankings, and I've dropped him, but I had him in my initial rankings as a late second, early third round. I felt like that was a little generous after kind of looking at it, just based on his situation. I'm not a Patrick Mahomes fan. Now, obviously, that's Mr. Safe talking. I haven't seen anything. I'm going to go with something more proven. So has Tyreek Hill kind of dropped based on what you've seen or based on this year compared to last year? Because obviously, I think if Alex Smith was back, Tyreek Hill would be a second-round wide receiver.
See, that's too high for me. I'm more of a 3 or 4 guy.
Well, I mean, is that with Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah.
Okay. So I agree. If it was Alex Smith coming back, I would have him as a second-round pick, a late second-round pick. But with Patrick Mahomes, I moved him down in my rankings because we don't know. We don't know. And so you said with Mahomes, you have him as a late third, early fourth kind of area.
Yeah.
What do you think, Todd?
I have Tyreek Hill. Sammy Watkins, I'm just more based on the injury prone. Dude just cannot stay healthy to save his life. And Tyreek Hill, like Mikey said, is more that, all-purpose type player. And, whether it's, catch receptions or getting a touchdown, that's what you want. That's what you want in a playmaker. So I go with Tyreek Hill.
I like Tyreek Hill's catch rate over 70% in every year of his career so far. I mean, it's only 2, but, he's averaged about 72%. The reception's never really been high, but obviously the situations that Sammy Watkins has been in has definitely hurt his progress there. But there's so many people trying to garner targets. But, do you know who the second leading wide receiver on the team was last year?
Kareem Hunt.
No, I'm talking as a receiver.
Oh.
In the wide receiver, that's Albert Wilson, who had 42 catches and 3 touchdowns. That's just because there's so many else now. Mahomes could come in and build a rapport with anybody else, so that scares me. And I would take Hill first for sure, but I don't think Sammy Watkins. I don't know what he's going to get this year.
They gave him big money, so they obviously are expecting something from him.
But he could be that red zone threat. But when you run the ball as well as you can, as well as they do, and you have Travis Kelce, and you can throw those wide receiver screens. Don't get me wrong, it's great to have that, but doesn't that hurt production from everybody, or someone's going to be left out of the mix? Who knows how that's going to play out? I would definitely pick Tyreek Hill first. All right, we kind of talked about this earlier. These two guys were separated by 1 point in our scoring league last year. Golden Tate and Marvin Jones. and that very pass happy because they need to throw the ball a lot without a good running back in Detroit. So, Todd, who are you drafting first amongst these guys that were just 1 point separated in our scoring system from last season?
Golden Tate still. I think still clearly the number one wide receiver in that offense. Matthew Stafford still targets him the most in that offense, so I'd still go Golden Tate.
Wasn't by much, though. He had 120 targets to 107 targets. So it's still really close.
Yeah, but I still go
Still
Tate.
like Tate?
I still like Tate.
What about you, Mikey?
I agree. I like Tate. And I like Marvin Jones. He's a good player. You know, he led, in yards per reception, 18. It's pretty good. But when Kenny Golladay got healthy, Marvin Jones' targets went down by 4.5.
Per game, you mean?
Per game.
That's a
when
ton.
Golladay went in there. So, that's concerning. What I like about Golden Tate is, I love the guys that get receptions. He has 90-plus receptions in all 4 years in Detroit. So that's pretty darn steady. So, yeah, I'm taking Golden Tate here.
If I was going to take a chance, Mr. Safe over here, if I'm taking a chance, I would see if Marvin Jones, if they're going about the same place in the draft, maybe I would take a chance. Now, Golden Tate is the Doug Baldwin of the situation. He has played every game the last 3 years, and he just racks up stats because he's out there every game. Marvin Jones, when given 9 targets, puts up incredible numbers. Tate had 6 games of 9 points or less. And so for him, there are days where he'll be great. He'll put up 5, 6, 7 points, and it's good and steady. And I guess when you're at number 21, number 22, number 23 receivers, I guess that's all right. I don't know. When does that start to fade off? He's 30 years old. Marvin Jones got him by 2 years at 28. If I was going to take a chance, if I'm in that mix, I'm like, if I feel like if I have stable guys in front of me in terms of if I drafted some stable wide receivers, if I'm drafting my number one, which God help me if this doesn't happen to me, then maybe I would take Golden Tate to be safe. But if I got some guys, I may take a chance on Marvin Jones to see if he kind of breaks out this year. Let's talk about some Rams wide receivers. Man, that's a cluster F of a team for sure. Cooper Kupp, Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods. And we obviously know about Todd Gurley and all the numbers he brought in last year. But out of those 3 guys, Todd, who went first last time? I'm just going to give it to Todd. Todd, who are you drafting first among Kupp, Cooks, and Woods?
Robert Woods.
Wow.
Robert Woods. That was toward the middle of the season. Jared Goff, they were best friends right off the bat. Jared Goff, pretty much through 5 or 6 games was targeting Robert Woods. Robert Woods was getting all the receptions and touchdowns he wanted. So I'm going with Robert Woods. Brandon Cooks. obviously he didn't have the season we were looking for when he was in New England. Cooper Kupp obviously had some flashes, but Robert Woods kind of started separating himself a little bit. Obviously Brandon Cooks wasn't there last year, but Cooper Kupp and then Sammy Watkins. But obviously Sammy Watkins got hurt a little bit toward the middle end toward the season. So I'm going Robert Woods. And where I had Robert Woods ranked in my rankings was number 17. Ooh. And now the fact that Jared Goff now looks like he's figured it out now, because obviously his rookie year was just god awful. Now, granted, that was with Jeff Fisher, and we'll never talk about that ever again. What he did to that franchise. So I think, and the fact now, obviously that Todd Gurley was already was emerging as one of the top running backs in the league. So that obviously helps the passing game as well. But now with Jared Goff, looks like he's got everything focused and he's ready to go. I think his target is gonna be Robert Woods, and that's who I would pick as one of my wide receivers late in the draft.
So Mikey, we could just hear you through the microphone stewing over there. So Todd says out of those 3 guys, Kupp, Cooks, and Woods, he would take Robert Woods first. And he had him 17th overall.
It's insane. It's completely ludicrous. Insane, whatever you want to call it. So Woods, obviously for me, would be behind both of those guys. Cooks is probably the best talent. I mean, he's a 1,000-yard receiver every year. My guy is actually Cooper Kupp.
That's who you would draft first?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
So he led the team in targets with 94.
Correct.
Led the team in receiving yards, yards per catch, red zone targets with 23. And the Rams played 3 wide more than any team in the NFL, 81%. So he's going to be on the field. I'm a sucker for slot guys. I mean, I had Kupp on my team last year. I had Fitzgerald on my team last year. I had Thielen on my team. I love the slot guys because they just never let you down. So Cooks is going to be one of those guys where he's going to put 20 up one week, and then he's going to put up 5 one week. Kupp, I believe, has the better ability of being able to get you 8 to 12 each week, and he's going into his second year in the system. I think he's going to be even better than he was last year. I love some Cooper Kupp. Robert Woods is okay, but that's it.
So one of the news, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but the Rams extended Cooks. This just today, I can't remember if it was today or yesterday. So you talk about money. They just gave him a lot of money. They traded a first-round pick to get him, but you still think that Cooper Kupp's going to have more points at the end of the year over.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a lot more receptions than Cooks. Cooks is the big play guy, the guy that could take the top off a defense going deep. But when it comes to consistent numbers, I believe that Kupp's going to have more catches. Cooks will probably have more yards. It's going to kind of come down to who has the most touchdowns. And based on the fact that he had those 23 red zone targets, it shows a chemistry that's been built with Goff where he's comfortable throwing to Cook in that red zone, and that's what really attracted me to him.
If Cooks falls far enough, I will take him, but I think the value is going to be in Kupp. That's what I had on my sheet here. Cooks had 114 targets in New England last year, right? It was New England? I don't know. It was New England. I don't know. It gets traded every year. I can't keep up with this guy. And then Kupp, 94 targets. Woods had 85. And then points, just based on our point system, Cooks had 155, which was 15th in our league. Kupp had 126 points, which was 28th. And Woods, 117 points, which was 33. So it's definitely tough. They're right there next to one another. So it'll be interesting to see who Goff ends up favoring or where the offense really kind of directs itself. Now let's talk about something that's a little less sexy, and that'll be the Cowboys wide receivers. Now, I talked to Todd about this. I didn't talk to you about this, but you're smart. You'll have some stuff figured out. I should have put Hearns in this mix. I put Beasley and Michael Gallup in there, but I should have put Alan Hearns in there as well. But you can tell me what you like. So out of those 3 guys, in an offense that likes to run first, who are you picking out of those 3 guys first?
I really don't want any of them. I'll say that right up front. So in a situation like this, where there's targets to be had, I'm probably more likely to pass on both Hearns and Beasley and just throw a dart at Gallup and see if something turns out.
So when you say dart, though, that's later in the draft.
You're damn right.
So someone's going to take a chance on him. Obviously, it's July. So we're going to see preseason stuff. But if we drafted today, someone's drafting him, or someone's going to like, oh, he must be the number 1 wide receiver on that. And he's going to get drafted way before your dart throw chance.
Yeah, it's possible. I'm definitely not taking Beasley.
Why do you hate Beasley so much?
50-plus yards one time in his last 21 games. That's
He had
terrible.
a bad season last year.
Yeah,
but the whole offense, outside of Zeke, had a bad.
There's just no upside with him.
I agree with that.
So, I'm just not. And in OTAs, they were trying to move him outside, and I don't like that either.
5'8", folks.
Yeah, so I don't think that's going to
180 pounds. Why is he outside?
Yeah, he shouldn't be playing outside. I don't like that either. But no, Gallup's got some decent size. You know, he had a pretty good career at Colorado State.
But just 2 seasons ago for Beasley, 75 catches, over 800 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's not great numbers, but I mean, if you're talking about getting a guy late, he's done it in this system before.
Yeah.
Could he get back to those numbers?
I just don't want it. I don't want it.
Mikey has this disdain look on his face.
I don't want it.
Like someone's going to give him just a disgusting piece of fruit. Like, no, I can't. I'm going to puke. Todd, out of those three guys, Hearns, Gallup, and Beasley, who are you drafting first?
I'm going with Allen Hearns just because of more of the experience. He came from an offense that did a little bit better last year with the Jaguars. Obviously, because the fact Allen Robinson was hurt last season. No, Allen Robinson was with the Bears. Excuse me. No, I was right. Sorry.
There you go.
He was
Back
still
on track.
he was still with the draft. He's still with the draft.
The Drags. There's a brand new team. Todd, it is 11:35. Todd is falling apart.
Oh, the Drags is something at work. Okay, all right. Sorry. Allen Hearns was with the Jags last season, and that offense did a little bit better. And I think that, and obviously Allen Hearns, he was an undrafted player when he first started in the league anyway. So I think going into an opportunity now where they're trying to figure out who is the number one wide receiver and trying to establish that besides the running game, I think Allen Hearns, put him on the outside. He's definitely proven that. I think he'll have. Okay, here comes the numbers. He's gonna have 1,100 yards receiving. He's gonna have about 60 or 70 catches and 8 touchdowns.
Holy moly.
Where
do you have Allen Hearns run your rankings?
I have him at 41, but I think now going into an opportunity now where they have where run first is the number one option there. That's gonna open it up, and he's more of a deep threat. The Cowboys haven't had Des Bryant's gone, Terrence Williams, is inconsistent, so I think that's gonna help him.
Are you done now?
Yes, sir.
Are you done with your Allen Hearns talk?
Yes.
Yuck.
I agree with you, though. If I have to draft one of these guys, it's going to be Allen Hearns.
Okay.
The wide receivers, it's tough for them to pan out in their first year, especially in that offense. I mean, Allen Hearns had double-digit touchdowns in his first 2 seasons. So I think he's capable of putting up good numbers. It's just injuries with him. He's had 3 concussions. He's had ankle issues, thigh issues, foot issues. If he could stay healthy, then I would try throw a dart at him, I guess, just to see. He has decent catch rates. Beasley, not much there. I don't know enough about Gallup. How many catches that can Zeke catch? How about that's the question? Should Zeke catch 60 passes this year?
No, I don't think he'll get that high.
It'll help your number one overall running back
I think he
situation.
could get to 50.
Yeah,
We'll
see. But, yeah, so it's a tough situation. Preseason's going to play a really big factor in it. If Gallup ends up proving himself out there, he may be the number one. Let's keep going. We're over an hour now. So let's talk about Miami Dolphins, Devontae Parker, Kenny Stills. It's not a wonderfully awesome situation to have to look at, but they're going to get drafted. So where do you draft them? Who are you drafting first, Mikey?
Tease. That's what Devontae Parker is, I tell you. It's never good when you get the reputation in your own locker room as a guy that doesn't want to play through an injury. That's kind of what Devontae Parker's turned into.
It's not good.
Yeah,
It's not
last
good.
2 years, the hype train's been on him, and both times it's been a complete disappointment. So count me
So
up.
maybe he's just not that good.
Yeah. I would say at this point you can call him a bust. I think he was taken 14th overall in the draft. I'd call him a bust. So
Wow.
get me off that Devontae Parker train. I don't want to
But
be
Mikey,
part
he's
of it.
6'3".
I don't care. Kenny Stills last year, career high 105 targets. They loved him so much they just gave him a new big contract. So if I'm going to pick between the two, give me Kenny Stills.
Todd
Plays the
Stills.
slot too. I love that.
Todd loves his slot guys, or Mikey loves his slot guys.
I go Parker just
Ooh.
because I think now with Jarvis Landry gone, I think now they really want to see maybe now he'll be the number one guy. Obviously, I know last year 57 receptions, 670 yards, only 1 touchdown. But I think now, Jarvis Landry gone, Parker will be the number one guy. I think now he'll have. He's not gonna have a breakout season, but he's gonna show flashes of why he was drafted. In the first round originally. And where I have Parker in my rankings is number 33. Now, that's just based on, obviously, he just hasn't done a whole lot. Obviously, that Miami offense hasn't, except for Jarvis Landry. But Jarvis Landry's gone now. So I think that's kind of more, that ranking is kind of more show me, can you, now that, Jarvis Landry's gone, can you show me, more than just 670 yards receiving?
Yeah. I mean, Parker will get drafted first by most. Stills has 18 touchdowns the last 3 years. Parker just 8. And that's pretty crazy for a guy who's 6'3", 212 pounds. But Parker's catch rate is higher than Stills. Stills is in the low 50s. Parker's in the 60% range. I'm going to wait for Parker to get drafted and get the value on Stills. Just give me, I want to try to get to tight ends. Just give me a one-word answer. Who you drafting first, Mikey Sanu or Calvin Ridley?
I'm taking Ridley.
Okay. Todd, do you like Ridley or Sanu?
Sanu.
And maybe we'll talk more about this as we get closer, but we got to get going here. Mikey, give me one or two guys, and try not to talk too long about it, guys that you don't like.
Guys I don't like?
We'll start with the don't like. Did you guys do this? If you guys didn't do this.
The guy that, I had one guy that I didn't like.
Fine, give me one.
Robbie Anderson.
Okay. Tell me why real quick.
Got arrested in May. That's a big red flag.
Everybody's getting arrested these days, Mikey.
But that's a red flag.
It's a trend. It's like Russell
Shaky
Westbrook.
quarterback situation with Josh McCown. I think the fact that a lot of his touchdowns, he only had one that was in the red zone. It's very fluky. I don't like Robbie Anderson.
Mikey, Todd, is there anybody you don't like?
And we talked about him earlier, Mike Williams. That's no.
Not taking on Mike Williams.
Nope.
I don't know what the big deal is about Chris Hogan. Everybody seems to be drafting him early. 31 receptions or less in the last 5 years. Top 5 even on his own team. I don't like Chris Hogan. Gross. I don't know what the big deal is.
Todd does.
I don't know. Todd's not the only one. There's a lot of people that are high on him for whatever reason. Mikey, give me one guy you like.
I love two guys, but T.Y. Hilton and Juju Smith-Schuster.
Not again with T.Y.
T.Y. Hilton, Juju Smith-Schuster. Love both of them.
I love Juju. I'm fine, but T.Y., you got to stop.
I don't even have him ranked.
Tell me quickly why
you
you
don't
like
even have T.Y. Hilton ranked?
That's
no.
ridiculous, Todd.
Andrew Luck's healthy. This dude's going to be a top 10 guy again.
Yeah, well, let's see.
Possibly
Andrew Luck.
higher than
Let's
that.
see Andrew.
He led the league in receiving yards the last time Andrew Luck was healthy. So
Yeah.
keep that in mind.
Yeah, well,
And who else is there for him to throw the ball to?
It doesn't matter. Andrew Luck's got to be on that field and be healthy, okay?
I'm one that believes that he will be.
Well, I'll believe it when I see it. When I see him throwing the football.
And Smith-Schuster, I think, can have over 90 receptions.
Yeah.
Schuster's an incredible
Yeah.
talent. He's one of those guys that passes the eye test. That's an Aaron quote that he likes to say. I agree. Schuster is incredible. Todd, you have a guy you like?
Yeah, Nelson Aguilar. 62 yards, 62 catches, 768 yards, 8 touchdowns. I think that's going to go up. He plays in the slot, to quote Mikey. And I think that number's going to go up.
I have a lot of guys that I like, but I'll mention Randall Cobb. He'll be the number 2 guy in targets. That's good enough in an Aaron Rodgers system. Okay, tight end rankings. First, give me quickly what your tight end strategy is. Is it going to be get one of those top guys, or are you waiting to the very end? What's your strategy?
I'm waiting unless, say one of those Kelsey Gronk guys is there, in round 4, then maybe I'll take a stab at it. But other than that, I'm
that's
waiting.
not going to happen. at least I don't think it's going to happen, but in our league. Go ahead, Todd. What's your strategy?
I'm just going to wait, too, as well. I've always waited on tight ends, too. I take that back. Jimmy Graham, 2011. Yeah, I ended up trading him to you.
What's wrong with me?
I don't know. It just didn't really work out for me. So wasn't really too happy with Jimmy. Jimmy was bad. Jimmy was real bad.
If Gronk or Kelsey are there in the 3rd round to my pick, I would probably take a chance, depending on who else is there. But that's my strategy. If not, I'm waiting to the very end. Let's talk about Jimmy Graham. Todd, speaking of Jimmy Graham, do we like him? Do we not like him? You can tell me where you have him ranked in your rankings if you want. What do you guys expect from Jimmy Graham? Anybody can go.
I have him ranked 4th.
Okay.
There's no doubt he's lost a step. However,
is that even important?
It's not, because the numbers like him. 26 red zone targets last year, first among tight ends. 16 targets inside the 10-yard line, and he's going to the team that likes to throw the ball 70% of the time in the red zone. So, yeah, he's going to get his touchdowns.
Todd, tell me something about Jimmy Graham. Like, I hate him. What
I have him number 7 in my rankings. I have that based on just seeing if he can get some of it, get back to where he was maybe when he was with Drew Brees. Obviously, didn't really work out in Seattle, and also too some of the tight ends that I have in front of them because their wide receiver core isn't great. I have Delaney Walker, Kyle Rudolph, Travis Kelce, Greg Olsen, Zach Ertz. So I have those in front of him just because obviously because I think Devontae Adams is going to be that mainstay, that main target for Aaron Rodgers. So that might defer a little bit points and yards away from Jimmy Graham. Not saying I think Jimmy Graham may have a bounce back season because he has Aaron Rodgers throwing him the football, so that's always a good thing. So that's where I have Jimmy Graham.
I agree that Green Bay likes to throw it in the red zone, but they don't like to throw it to their tight ends. Here are the tight ends the last 5 seasons, the top scoring tight ends. Last year, Martellus Bennett, 24 receptions, 233 yards, 0 touchdowns. Jared Cook, 2 years ago, 30 receptions, 377 yards, 1 touchdown. Richard Rodgers had 58 catches, 510 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Jordy Nelson was out that season. Corliss, 29 receptions, and Corliss before that, 32 receptions. So this is the conversation I had when we all first heard it, that they just don't even like going to their tight ends.
None of those guys.
Is Jimmy Graham better than those guys?
Yes.
Probably. But everybody loved Martellus Bennett, too, and thought that he was going to come in and be this credible tight end, and he almost did next to nothing. So I have Jimmy Graham ranked 7th. There's upside for sure. Maybe he built some sort of rapport. He could also open his mouth, which is the last thing you want to see him do, and piss off Aaron Rodgers. And Rodgers ain't going to take a shit. So I'm not a big fan, and I wasn't a big fan when I first heard it either. So there's that. And even Pro Football Focus had Jimmy Graham as the number 33 tight end based on their stats. He had, and obviously we talked about he's not a big reception guy, but he had 9 games of 3 receptions or less.
Yeah,
it's all about touchdowns.
It's all about
touchdowns.
Which with crappy tight ends, that's all you need.
Yeah, but they don't give it to him. If you take out the Richard Rodgers 8 touchdowns, they've had 3, 4, 5, 6 in the last 5 years. Ugh, no thanks. Anything else you guys want to say about tight ends?
I got the sleeper. I think that was one of the questions. The sleeper guy
that
could be top 5.
Sure.
My guy's George Kittle.
Okay.
San Francisco. I think in that Shanahan offense that typically likes to feature tight ends, especially in the red zone, I think that he's going to be a big threat. I mean, you saw when Shanahan offense was in Cleveland, Jordan Cameron had a big year. Washington, Jordan Reed had a big year. I think Kittle, who last year, by the way, had 16 red zone targets as a rookie, is going to be a big threat. I mean, the guys on the outside, Goodwin and Garcon, they're not big touchdown guys. And Jerick McKinnon is not you saw what would happen in Minnesota. They would never give him the ball inside the 10.
Right.
He's so small.
He's a tiny dude.
Yeah, so I think that Kittle's going to have a big year.
Todd?
Well, Mikey took my sleeper because that's who
That's okay. You guys have the same ones.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that because obviously, the buzz around San Francisco now is, maybe have a franchise quarterback.
They do. He just may not be good.
Yeah,
they paid him like a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, they paid
he's a franchise quarterback. He just may not be that good.
They paid him they paid him after 7 games. I mean, wow. Somebody paid. If I did that for 7 games, yeah, sure. Give me Aaron Rodgers' money. That'd be great. And Aaron Rodgers hadn't even got his money yet. So that's for another podcast. But I do agree with all that though. That I think he will have a breakout, not a breakout season, but he'll surprise a lot of people. And I think what's the quarterback's especially best target is a tight end. And I think when those 7 games, Kittle, had a good rapport with Jimmy Garoppolo, so I think that'll help. So I think that might be a sleeper.
I actually forgot to do this question, but I'll throw out Trey Burton. He's a guy who's 6'3", caught 75% of the passes. He didn't have a lot of them thrown his way. But I think he's one of those guys could be Zach Ertz clone. You got to do the same things in a situation where you don't know what you're going to get in the wide receivers over there. And if Trubisky's going to take that step forward, I'm not a Trubisky fan, but if he takes a step forward, that can be more targets for Trey Burton. So there you go. Do we all agree that Gronk's the number 1 tight end that should be drafted?
I actually have Kelsey.
You have Kelsey first, yeah. I went back and forth on that, and I'm still not 100% what I'm going to do, but yeah, I mean, I think those two are definitely
less injury risk, more consistent.
Yeah, better quarterback, because I'm not a Mahomes guy, and everybody knows that by now, because I've probably said it on every podcast of this show. So there you go, another one in the books. Well, I think we're going to do 2 more shows before the draft. We'll do some mock drafts. Maybe we'll do some mock drafts, a couple rounds. Maybe we'll go a couple rounds. Whatever's happening at the time. I think we're in preseason games by that point, maybe in a couple weeks. So maybe we'll talk about some more position battle stuff. We'll just see. We'll just kind of play it off our ears. And obviously, you guys, Alan gave us a couple questions, and Mikey answered the questions. So maybe we'll get some more questions from people. So any last thoughts before we get out of here? It's late. Some people got to go to work tomorrow. I don't have to go in too early, so poor Mikey. Mikey loves him some Doug Baldwin. Just say a wide receiver. Who's on your mind right now, Todd? Wow, you're not supposed to sigh.
I don't know.
Wide receiver is supposed to be exciting.
I know, exciting. Antonio Brown.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Antonio Brown is just, was it 2 years ago when we did a mock draft, and I think I said Antonio Brown over David Johnson, and I got the stink eye from the both of y'all. So,
sorry, just normal habit. I don't know what you want from me.
Yeah, that's true.
People in the audience are giving you stink eyes.
That's true. Quayne definitely chimed in before the podcast on our chat and said, I wanted just to disagree with Todd right off the bat. I'm like, you know what?
Go.
It just means,
if they hate you, it means they're paying attention.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
I'll just say Devin Funchess. We didn't get to talk about him, but I think he could be better next year as well. So we're going to get out of here. MHA Podcast. We'll see you next time in August. Almost here, gentlemen. The NFL season is almost here. We're out. MHA Podcast. MHA Podcast.